So, what if the entire Bible, from the very first page of Genesis all the way to the end of Revelation, was actually telling one single cohesive story? I'm not talking about a random collection of books, but a unified narrative about a cosmic clash between two totally different kinds of wisdom. Today, we're going to dive deep into a theological view that really tries to unlock this hidden structure.
All right, here's our roadmap. We're going to start with a tiny hidden clue in the very first verse of the Bible. From there, we'll follow these two paths of knowledge, one from the first Adam and the other from the second. Then, we're going to have to completely rethink what the word wisdom even means before we see how this whole grand story points to the person of Christ. So how in the world can one single sentence set the stage for an entire library of books? Well, according to this interpretation, the key has been hiding in plain sight the whole time, in a word that most translations don't even bother to include. Check this out. In the original Hebrew of Genesis 1:1, there is this tiny two-letter word that appears twice, et. Now, it's usually just left out because it's seen as a grammatical marker. But what if it's not insignificant? What if it's actually the key that unlocks the entire biblical story? You see, et is made of aleph and taf, which are the first and last letters of the Hebrew alphabet. It's basically the Hebrew equivalent of saying from A to Z. It's the symbolic container for everything, from the beginning to the end. So when Genesis says God created et the heavens, it's hinting at more than just the sky. It's talking about the whole story, from the first heavens to the new heavens. In just two little letters, we get a blueprint for the whole Bible, suggesting this one complete story was there from the very start. Okay, so with that frame in mind, that the whole story is already packed into the beginning, let's look at the first of these two paths of knowledge. This one starts with the first Adam, and it's defined by its deep, inescapable connection to the earth. And this, right here, is the central conflict of the whole biblical narrative. You have the first Adam who comes from the dust of the earth. He represents a kind of wisdom that's totally grounded in the physical, temporary world, a mindset that, we're told, ultimately leads to spiritual death and darkness. And then, in total contrast, you have the second Adam, Christ, who comes from heaven, bringing a divine wisdom that leads to life and light. So, what does this earthly state actually feel like? Well, it's described as a kind of ignorance or darkness, a spiritual blindness where you can't see things as they really are. The Bible uses these powerful metaphors like being a leper or being blind to describe it. It's the state of being numb to the divine, a life lived only for the material world. It's a knowledge tied to the serpent, who, remember, was cursed to eat dust, the very stuff Adam was made of. Okay, so if that's the first path, this dead end of dust and darkness, how does the story give us an alternative? Well, this is where the pivotal figure of the second Adam comes in, and he offers a completely different kind of wisdom. Now, this isn't just about changing your opinions or trying to be a better person. It's about a complete transformation of your very being. Think about a caterpillar dissolving in its chrysalis before it becomes a butterfly. It's that radical. Through this spiritual union with Christ, the old earthly self, that first Adam mindset, is put away and a totally new, divinely inspired life can begin. And this just nails the core metaphor, doesn't it? If the first state is darkness, the shadow of death, then Christ is presented as this brilliant, great light that just cuts right through it. He is the illumination that turns someone into a son of light, and his teaching is the source of a wisdom that completely shatters the ignorance of that old earthly mindset. To really get the scale of this shift, we need to zoom in on a single Greek word that the New Testament writers basically hijacked and turned on its head: Sophia. This is where the real battle for the meaning of wisdom goes down. So in the ancient Greek world, Sophia was a huge deal. It meant intelligence, skill, deep philosophical knowledge. It was what all the great thinkers were chasing. But when the New Testament authors get their hands on this word, they set it up for a dramatic, head-on collision with its worldly meaning. The Apostle Paul basically throws down the gauntlet in his letter to the Corinthians. He asks this question that just cuts right to the heart of everything. Can we, with our own human logic and intelligence, ever figure out God? His answer is a loud, resounding no. Now, what's so wild here is how directly this challenges the culture of the day. Paul is arguing that everything the world calls wisdom, academic success, philosophical breakthroughs, business savvy, is ultimately foolishness in God's eyes. He's saying that humanity, left to its own devices, could never, ever reason its way to God. The very thing the Greeks treasured most, their Sophia, is declared a total failure.
And here is the absolute mic drop moment. The Bible's answer to our search for wisdom isn't a new philosophy or a better set of rules. It's a person. Paul completely redefined Sophia. It's no longer some abstract concept you study. It's a person you know, Jesus Christ, the living, breathing embodiment of God's perfect wisdom. The book of James just lays out this contrast in such practical, stark terms. You've got wisdom from above on one side. It's pure, it loves peace, it's full of mercy and good fruit. And on the other side, you have this earthly wisdom. It's unspiritual, it's driven by envy and selfish ambition, and it just leads to chaos and evil. I mean, the results could not be more different. All right, let's bring it all together in our final section and see how this all builds to the Bible's ultimate conclusion about knowledge, wisdom, and our connection to God.
So you can really map out this entire theological journey. It starts with a person operating with the earthly wisdom of the first Adam. Then they encounter the message of the cross, which looks like total foolishness to that old way of thinking. But by accepting it, they receive Christ, who is God's true wisdom. And this leads to the final goal, complete unity with God.
And this verse is really the grand finale. According to this view, Christ isn't just another wise teacher giving us good advice. He is wisdom itself. All the treasures of divine knowledge and understanding are hidden in him. The whole human quest for truth and meaning, it all ends right there in him.
And that brings us right back to where we started, from that little word et in Genesis 1:1, signaling one complete story, all the way to this final conclusion. The argument is that the Bible is telling one single, unified story. It's the story of humanity moving from a broken earthly knowledge to a complete heavenly wisdom that is found in one person alone.
And so, we're left with this question that just echoes across the centuries. If there really are two kinds of wisdom, and they each lead to a completely different destiny, then we kind of have to ask ourselves, which path am I on? The wisdom that's guiding my life, my decisions, my whole way of being, where is it actually taking me?